Okay, this is assignment number 4 for ICT 460, New Mexico State University. I'm Michael DiMatteo, and today we're going to talk about Vendetta. My assignment is to review basically the last novel that I read, and this would be it. It's been a very long time since I've read a novel. Most of my stuff that I read is mainly technical books and other stuff having to do with my job. So the last time I read this thing was in 1991. It's been a while, I have to admit. This is Vendetta by Peter David. He's an American author. He basically writes Star Trek books and comic books. He's been known for Spider-Man. He's done stuff with The Incredible Hulk. He's branched out to Battlestar Galactica. Several very famous comic book lines. So very famous science fiction lines. This is one of his, like I said, one of his earlier novels, written back in 1991. I remember when I picked this thing up the first time, I read it in an entire day, which is kind of unusual for me. And quite frankly, had they actually made this into a Star Trek movie, the next generation would probably still be making movies. Okay, so Vendetta. The major plot point of this book is the return of the Federation's deadliest enemy, the Borg. Now, you remember what happened the first time the Federation fleet took on the Borg, right?
You will disarm your weapons and escort us to Sector 001. If you attempt to intervene, we will destroy you.
Red alert! Load all torpedo bays, ready phasers. Move us to position Alpha, Ensign.
They've locked on.
Reroute auxiliary power.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. The fleet was pretty much destroyed, and the only reason Earth wasn't assimilated was that Data put the Borg to sleep, and that caused a malfunction in their systems, and they exploded just short of conquering the planet. Now, Peter also brings back one of the deadliest things that Captain Kirk fought in the original series, the Doomsday Machine.
Ship's weapons at full charge, Captain.
I suggest you target these coordinates.
Very good. Mr. Tyler, one quick pass to get its attention. Aye, sir.
So now you have both the Borg and the Doomsday weapon from the original series in the same novel, and basically what Peter does is he sets up a confrontation between them. Turns out that the Doomsday weapon in this novel is being piloted by the lone survivor of a race that was wiped out by the Borg, and she's out to go and revenge her race by taking on and destroying every Borg cube she can find. And the problem with that is, you'd think the Federation would be pleased by that. Unfortunately, the Doomsday weapon's main source of fuel is planets, and she doesn't really care if they're inhabited or not. Now, the book, I mean, this thing has pretty much everything in it. You've got the Ferengi are in this thing, the Tholians are in this thing. There's a scene in here in this novel that I thought was hilarious where Captain Picard comes upon the Tholian fleet and makes contact with them and asks for Mr. Spock from the original episode of the original series. Apparently Tholians have a different perception of time than everyone else. I mean, basically Peter throws in the entire kitchen sink into this thing. I think my favorite scene is near the beginning where the first Borg cube appears over the Parati homeworld, and of course these guys think that they're so superior to everyone else because they have the most sentient computers in the galaxy. These computers are self-aware and they're like the absolute best machines. Well, when they see the Borg coming, they turn to their computers for an answer, and the computer, unfortunately for them, basically says, "Ah, the Borg at last," and it sends out a distress call to the Borg asking to be removed from this planet of, illogical beings. And of course the Borg are more than happy to oblige and basically rip all the technology off the planet. That's just the beginning scene. It gets better from there. I could have done without the stuff with the Ferengi. I've never really liked them anyway, to be perfectly honest, but it's okay. Quite frankly, this novel has everything that any Star Trek fan could ever ask for. It's got suspense, it's got humor, and I would recommend this thing very highly. Like I said, usually, if I'm going to read something like this, it takes me a couple of days to go through it, but when I started to read this thing, I picked it up, and I didn't put it down till I was done. Now, like I said, it is an old book. It is from 1991, but it's still available. You can get it at Amazon.com or Barnes & Nobles, or you can get it here in Las Cruces at the Coas bookstore. I mean, they pretty much carry every Star Trek novel you could ever find. Don't want to go into too much detail about this because it would ruin the book for you, but quite frankly, this is one of the best books I've ever that I've ever read from Star Trek, and I would recommend it highly for anyone who is interested.